I've read hundreds of books about rehab, training, and performance, but the one that has helped me the most and has actually created my whole process about how I help people fix their injuries is this 2,500-year-old book called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. In this video, I'm going to give you 15 important lessons that I took from this book to help over 1,000 people fix their injuries, from back pain to knee pain to shoulder pain, that you can take away and apply to your own rehab. If you know your enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. You need to understand that pain isn't the enemy here when you're trying to fix your injury. The real enemy is usually physical qualities that you lack. Maybe it's mobility, maybe it's strength, maybe it's confidence, maybe it's education around your injury. A lot of the time, pain is actually the last thing to go when fixing knee, shoulder, or back pain. You actually don't want to hyper-focus on it. You want to focus on these other physical qualities, and this will let you win rehab, so to speak, and help you get back to what you want to be doing. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war. This principle is that most people go back to training or that activity they want to get back to too soon. There's no testing in place, there's no system in place, and so as soon as they feel pain-free, they get back to maybe it's running, maybe it's football, maybe it's rugby, whatever it is. When in reality, they need to hit certain benchmarks and spend a certain amount of time doing particular exercises so they can actually get back to that thing. If you don't have a system in place and you're just guessing when you feel good, then more than likely you're going to fail. In the midst of chaos, there is always opportunity. When you're trying to fix an injury, there's a lot of different things going on. Chaos, so to speak. Pain is incredibly complex, and certain days you will feel very, very shit. You won't feel like doing your exercises, you won't feel like being consistent with your sleep and nutrition, and you'll feel like you're going backwards. You need to understand that rehab is an opportunity, and it is an opportunity to work on the boring things, unfortunately. Fixing these boring little things, like maybe it's your foot and ankle mobility or your hip mobility, can actually not only help fix your injury, but also benefit you long term in terms of overall health, performance, and just feeling better day to day. So you need to look at the long-term benefits and not just think, oh, this is just to fix my injury. You need to take the positives from going through that process of rehab. The greatest victory is that requires no battle. This basically means the best rehab is actually done before you even start doing any exercises. And the best athletes in the world understand this. They prioritize sleep, nutrition, and reducing external stressors. Now, obviously, if you're not an elite athlete, you can't do all these things perfectly, but you can still aim for 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep, 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight every day. And you can also maybe just spend less time on your phone is a great option to reduce your stress and just clear your mind after a long day at work. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. Rehab is not linear, as I spoke about previously, and progress therefore isn't linear. So you need to understand day to day when to push through a certain level of pain and when not to push through a certain level of pain. If you imagine a scale of 0 to 10, 10 is the worst pain imaginable and 0 is no pain. As long as you're working within that 0 to 3 out of 10 pain score range, you're absolutely fine. So a little bit of pain is okay. And on days that you're feeling better and you have less pain than that, this kind of gives you the green light to either increase the weight you're using with particular exercises, increase the range of motion, or just be more confident or faster in your movement. And on days you're not feeling as good, just reduce these things and understand that you're going to have those bad days. Just make sure you're progressing overall week by week or month by month. All warfare is based on deception. This is the idea that your brain is potentially deceiving you by protecting the injured area. A lot of the time, the brain is actually very overprotective if you've injured a certain area. And it doesn't mean that you've got loads of damage at that area, for example, back pain. It's just the brain perceives there to be a lot of threat. And so the best way to fix this is that gradual introduction of mobility, strength, and just getting that area moving, as opposed to resting and praying to the injury gods that it's magically going to fix itself. Appear weak when you are strong and appear strong when you are weak. All this means in rehab is respecting your limits and boundaries, understanding when you're doing too much, when you're doing too little, and just not doing anything silly. For example, if you've got knee pain and you're going through a very set process of maybe doing some leg extensions, then some split squats, and then some back squats, follow that program to a T. Don't suddenly think after you've done leg extensions and they're pain-free and you feel good, don't suddenly chuck 200 kilos on a squat. Try and do that. You need to just stick to the process, be calm, and have patience. The skillful fighter puts himself beyond the possibility of defeat. This is just about building systems with your rehab. Again, if you don't have the foundations in place, sleep, nutrition, someone keeping you accountable, you're bound to fail. As James Clear said in Atomic Habits, you always fall to the level of your systems, not your goals or motivation. And so you always fall back and revert to this. So you need to build a system within your daily routine or weekly routine where you can fit in exercises to do, depending on how long it's going to take you. And then you also need to put systems in place to potentially improve your nutrition and your sleep. And a lot of this revolves around creating new habits. And once you've created that new habit, actually being consistent with it. He who is destined to defeat first fights with his ego. Ego kills rehab and sets you back 99% of the time. Because again, people think they're ready to do something when they're not. It's simply about sticking to the process. The best analogy here could be that instead of rehab, maybe you're training to do a 5K run or a 10K run. And instead of sticking to the process, you skip 3 or 4 weeks and then you suddenly just do the 5K or the 10K. You're far more likely to get injured if you haven't followed the process. Another great analogy, if you're baking a cake and you miss out maybe step 2 or step 3, you don't put any sugar in, like my dad once did when he was actually making me a birthday cake, then it makes a bit of a rubbish cake and it doesn't taste particularly good. So just make sure you're methodical, patient, following all the steps. Speed is the essence of war. When you get injured, the best way to fix it as quickly as possible is to get it sorted as quickly as possible. This sounds incredibly logical, but people leave back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, hip pain for years and years and years before they see someone. And then obviously when they see a physio or coach, it's going to take a long period of time to fix it because it's been getting worse for that, period of time. So as soon as you start to pick up a little niggle or an injury, think, how can I squash this on the head as soon as possible? Because then more than likely, it might only take a few weeks to actually fix it instead of maybe, 3-6 months or more than that. If you've just been struggling with something for years and years and years, and you just think, yeah, I'm just going to be stubborn and push through the pain. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. As you start to get those small wins in rehab and you stack them day by day, it creates this snowball effect where you start to gain more and more confidence. Confidence then creates this consistency and you've built those habits to actually fix your injury and get where you want to be. This is probably the hardest part of rehab and it's the most underrated thing. There's no point in doing something for 2-3 days or a week. You need to create a system that you can stick to for months and even years going forward so that you're healthy and you can actually prevent future injuries as well. He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not will always be victorious. Rehab takes time and it could be 3 months before you see any significant improvements in pain, especially if you're dealing with something like chronic back pain, which has a lot of other psychological elements. You need to be patient, you need to stick to the process, and you just need to trust the person you're working with. They need to keep you accountable, and you need to think deep down, am I sticking to everything? Am I doing everything I can? If you are, it's just a case of being patient and playing a little bit of a waiting game. To subdue the enemy without fighting is a skill. Sometimes fixing your injury isn't about smashing weights and doing strength training, and it's not about pushing through stretches. It's just about teaching your body to move a little bit better. Some simple breathing drills, getting your rib cage moving, getting your pelvis moving, and getting your hips moving can sometimes be a lot more effective. The Commander stands for the virtue of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. All this means is that you need to surround yourself with people who are actually going to push you forward. Environment is everything in training and rehab in life. So you need to find a coach or a gym or just a group of people that actually support what you're doing. Otherwise, it's really, really hard if you're in an environment where people are just saying, oh, just push through the pain, just do this workout anyways, because 99% of the time, that isn't going to fix the issue long term. And most of the time, those people have just given up and have just accepted that they're going to be in pain for the rest of their lives. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Now, I've mentioned variations of this throughout the whole thing, but really a lot of rehab is completely mental. You need to have a very good mindset in order to fix your injury because it's frustrating, it takes a long period of time, and it's very, very boring as well sometimes. So to have a strong mindset, you need to actually find something you love and want to get back to. When I ruptured my Achilles last year after Tenby Ironman, I was lost with rehab because it was incredibly boring. I didn't have that end goal to work towards. But when I found jiu-jitsu, then I had something to work towards and everything else clicked into place. My sleep was better, my nutrition was better, my training was better. So a lot of the time, people actually go wrong with rehab because they're not looking to find something that they love in terms of a hobby or a sport. Find something you love, and then this makes the process so much easier to do. The art of war isn't necessarily about fighting people, it's just about strategy, managing your mindset, managing your training, and finding a system that will actually get you from point A, injured and in pain, frustrated, to point B, getting back to what you want to be doing, whether that's bending over to pick something up or just doing a sport or activity you love. If you are interested in coaching, just check out the top link down below.